together, getting to know one another, talking about issues that we're all facing, good, bad, indifferent. Let's talk about it from one sister to another. Let's talk about it.
Hello, my sister friend.
Hey, what's up? What's up? And what's up to our group that comes together to meet with us every Monday, every first Monday of the month. How are you all?
Our awesome audience, yes.
There you go. Couldn't think of the word. It's December already.
Oh my gosh, right. How did that happen? When did that happen?
Yesterday. That's what it seems. This year has just gone by so fast.
That's so true. It's good to see you though. I'm glad we can get together again. It's been a minute, so we're gonna have to work that out.
Look, as long as the snow holds back,
right?
I should be able to do that. So, what are we talking about tonight, woman?
Oh my God. Well, first, before we get into that, I just want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all those that, we in the middle of a, holiday season, kind of like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? And so we got our festive colors on tonight.
Jesus is the reason for the season. We want you to remember that while you're out there shopping and buying all those gifts, remember what this day is really about and whose birthday that we're celebrating. Whether he was born on this day or not, we're celebrating his birth.
That's right. Tell him, sister.
Can you imagine Jesus being alive in this day and age and people come together to celebrate his birth, but they're giving gifts to everybody else?
Except him, right?
Except him.
Wow.
And all he wants is for you to give him your life.
That's it. He just wants our heart. He wants our life. That's right. So we're excited about being on today. Before we get into the topic, though, we want to let everybody know that we just may be in your area. Sister friend on the road. Yes. So we want you to make sure that you share where you're from. Also, if you are interested in having us come to your area, it don't have to be necessarily at your home, but we can meet you at the mall. We can meet you at the store, wherever, shopping, grocery shopping. We can meet you in the park, right? We can meet you the local shop in your area. So wherever you are, we can meet you right there. So we want you to know that sister friend, let's talk about it. We'll be on the road soon. So let us know if that's okay for us to come into your area, but let us know where you're from. Whether you're from New Jersey, New York, Delaware. Listen, you might be calling from Jamaica. I don't know. Listen, we want you to let us know where you are coming from or where you're tuning in from, I should say, right?
Yeah, definitely that.
Oh,
so we
wow.
have some interesting topic for tonight. It's that time of year when, while most people are celebrating, there are some people who don't feel they have anything to celebrate. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, really don't like the holidays at all.
Right.
We know some people that have lost loved ones. And so it's hard for them to get in the spirit of the holiday when they're still in the spirit of mourning. Yeah. So we want to talk about mental illness tonight.
Right.
And the church.
Yeah. We're checking on our sister friends. Are you okay? Right. We have to, we ask ourselves that every now and then. I ask myself that, girl, you okay?
I know that's right.
Right. Because I don't care what kind of title you have, what your education background is,
how long you've been saved in the church. It really doesn't matter. None of it does.
Right. None of that matters. We need to make sure we check on each other and check on ourselves and be honest with ourselves if we're not okay. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, I'm not okay right now. So we can be to help each other out, because that's what sisters do.
That's one thing I thank God for my sister friends, especially. Cassandra. There's times where, I'll just be on her mind. She'll give me a call just to say, "Are you all right? I was thinking about you. Want to make sure you're okay." Right. And that's what we have to do for each other. And it's something that I appreciate from not only Cassandra, but from all the people that do that to me and for me. And I try to reciprocate that with other people. You want to make sure people are okay. We don't have good days every day.
Right. That's true, Wanda. That's so true. We have to be, again, honest with ourselves first and foremost. Because if we're not, then we won't say anything.
That's right.
A lot of times people don't say anything because of fear, too. Fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being labeled.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a shame that people feel that, but it's also a shame that we've put people in that position.
Right.
That they can't be honest, that they can't be open. So we better do a better job.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things we want to talk about tonight is, the church's position on that, because for a long time, Cassandra and I were talking about this the other day, that how this has been such a private issue for people, especially in our community, where, we don't do psychologists or psychiatrists. We don't even do counselors, that's frowned upon, because we've demonized mental illness for so long that, some people don't even realize that it's something that they can be helped with.
Right. That's so true, Wanda. That's so true.
So I know you were looking up some statistics that I think are very interesting.
Yeah, they are very interesting. And this is current today. Just some different things we want to read off to you. So check this out, right? So 23%. Well, let me start with this one. This one was like really a number here. 49% of pastors say that they rarely or never speak to their congregation about mental illness. 49%.
I can't imagine.
That's a lot. And I think that's due to, and we want to ask our audience too, please feel free to, put your comments in the chat and share what you think the reason is. We want to hear back from you. This is a conversation. We want you to be engaged in this on tonight, because we'll have our experts come on at our next episode for January and kind of talk about this even further. But tonight we're kind of setting the groundwork. We're not the experts in this. We are just sharing statistics and our personal views and our experiences. So we just want to let you know
that is our disclaimer. We are not professionals. We are not mental health experts. We are not even in the mental health industry. So we just want you to understand that this is how we've seen things, what we've seen going on, and how we feel about it.
Yeah. So another statistic, Wanda, was 23% of pastors acknowledge that they have personally struggled with mental illness.
Oh, I can believe that.
Yeah. And that's probably on the low side, because they said 23% acknowledge it, right?
Right. So there you go. that is the difference. Because I think everybody has experienced church hurt, and people don't really realize how much leaders really experience that from members of the congregation as well as outside the church. So it's only 23% that was willing to admit it.
Right. Exactly. And then you have, and then you have, 59% of those actually suffering from mental illness will say the same. So some people are suffering, but they won't say it. They won't admit it, right?
They're suffering in silence, right?
Right. Yeah. 32% of churchgoers say suicide is a problem that needs to be addressed in their community.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, that was 76%. So that's a big number.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is something that needs to be discussed. That means it's important to people too. It's important to the congregants, right? So that means that number earlier that we read about, the 23%, that needs to be higher, because the congregants, the people that attend church, the churchgoers, right? They didn't say like those who are, because sometimes we can mix up churchgoers and those who are actual believers. People,
right.
And they're gone because they want help. They may not have had that experience yet where they connected with Christ and that kind of thing, but they're coming to church because they need help.
Right.
That's the whole point, right? We go to church.
And even the ones that are believers,
right,
because you know, like, if you read the story of Elijah suffered depression. You know, so we have to be more willing and more open as the body of Christ. So
look at
those
David.
numbers.
David ran to the cave. He's like, listen, I need a moment to get my act together. Okay, my head is like doing a thing right now.
Right? David had to have a conversation with himself. What is wrong with you, soul? Get it together.
Right. Let me just read a couple of more. So then you have 92%. I don't think I read this one. 92% of pastors say their church is equipped to care for the family that experiences suicide of a loved one. And I thought 92%? That was great. 92%.
Wow.
And I think that a lot of times churches are equipped, but because people are not talking about it as much, or something, sometimes you have just for example, you may have the degree, you have the certification, but sometimes we allow fear to hold us back from actually moving forward in what we already know.
Right.
You know, and our expertise and the things that God has blessed us with to actually deal with. So, that was interesting. And then the last one I think we'll read is 68% of Americans feel they would be welcome in a church if they were mentally ill. So I thought that was, want to end on a high note, right? So I thought that was great that they felt that they can go to a church and get the help that they need.
Right. And that's definitely a difference between church today and church when we were younger.
Yeah.
Because I know we had this conversation too, where when we grew up, there were two mental illnesses. Right? Either they had a mental breakdown or they had lost their minds. That was it. That's the only classifications we had.
Right. Now you have all kinds of things that you can put a name to it now. It has been, again, that's one reason why people don't say anything, because of the labels that come with it.
Exactly.
But sometimes, you got to put a name. To know how to pray, you got to put a name to it, right? Number one.
To know how to do it, you got to put a name to it.
Right. Exactly. So we want to just remind everybody, as we continue the conversation, to please do let us know where you're from as well in the chat, whether you're tuning in from New Jersey, North Carolina, New York, Connecticut, Delaware, wherever you are tuning in from. Please let us know if you're on Facebook or YouTube or Stitch or wherever you're listening, viewing it from. Please do let us know, and also drop your comments and questions in the comment area, in the chat area. We would love to just get those together, because next time we get together, next month, Wanda, right, we're going to have our experts. In January, we're going to have our experts come and join us here and have even a deeper conversation on this.
So if you have questions around mental illness, please drop them in the chat so that we can add them to the list of questions we have for our guests. But we want to kind of deal with just a little bit of it from our vantage point, from the vantage point of the common man who's seen things in their church, right? So, Cassandra, let's start with this one. Do you think there's a connection between religion, not relationship, but religion and mental health?
That's good. And that is a deep question, because I feel like everything is connected when it comes to how we live our life, what we go through in our life, and our faith, our spiritual walk.
Right.
Because I think about things that even I've been through personally that could have really turned out a different way. Most people know most of my testimony. If they don't, it's out there. So I was attacked in my apartment, just prior to me getting married. And in that, it really kind of messed with me, so I had to deal with that. I had to, first of all, say to myself, okay, this really did happen to you. It wasn't your fault. And you need to be healed from that. And I thank God that I had people around me at that time to ministered to me. And then once I got married, my husband, even before we got married, very loving, very caring, ready to listen, not just try to fix it. A lot of times, you're married, your spouse will try to fix it. And it's not about fixing it all the time. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you. You need somebody to just say, it's not your fault. You need somebody, let you know there is help out there for you. I'm here for you, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I feel that there's definitely a connection. But we have to realize that religion, for me anyway, religion and my spiritual walk is different to me, because people can do things religiously. I can, even like if you're going to a therapist, use that as an example. If you're going to a therapist, you can go religiously. You can go every month.
Go to work religiously.
Right. But are you really engaging? Are you really, like you said, are you really doing the work? Or are you just doing it just to check the boxes?
Right. And that's the same thing with church. A lot of, like you said, a lot of people go to church to check the box because that's what we do on Sunday. Right. Or that's what we do Saturday, depending on what religion you are.
Right.
It's what we were taught we were supposed to do. So we do it religiously.
Right. We have
but do you have that relationship?
Yeah.
Right. Do you really know him as Lord and Savior, or that type of thing? But when you say it that way, I kind of agree with you that. Well, I definitely agree that everything that we do is tied to our belief. And one of the things I think about, because I know it's probably been a while since I've given this testimony, but I was both molested and raped, not by a family member. Let me just put that out there now. But by someone I knew, both times by someone I knew. And I think about that now, that had I not known Christ for myself, had I not had a relationship with him, even though I was probably in a backslidden state, that could have turned out really, really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. Because, we have a tendency to carry those things into the next relationship. Because even if it's not something as drastic as that, what one man did to you, you carry into the next relationship and start taking it out on the next man, and so forth and so on.
That's so true.
Instead of learning to isolate that thing, to the person who did it, instead of carrying it on and making everybody else pay for it.
Right.
So, when you think about that, you're absolutely right that religion, or what we believe, absolutely has something to do. There's a connection between that and our mental health. And if you're not strong in something, and even when you are strong, we're not strong every day.
Yeah.
Some of us may not suffer depression, but we might have bouts with depression, right?
Right.
Because you have those moments. So it's definitely, there's always that connection, and we have to be more cognizant of that.
Yeah.
So,
And
go ahead.
I'll say, I just want to be clear on something too, because I can I'm picking up some people's questions in their heads, right? So first and foremost, we absolutely believe that there's absolutely nothing too hard for God. First and foremost. And at the same token, we don't want to dismiss people's experiences and their health situation, because mental health is a real thing. Mental illness is a real thing.
Absolutely.
Because if you say, self-care, then there's the opposite of that, right? So when you talk about mental health, there's, you can have good mental health, or you can have not so good mental health.
That's right.
You have good days. We have, some not so good days. So let's just make sure we understand there are people that are really suffering from mental illness, and we want to let them know that it's okay to admit that and to get help. You don't have to suffer that in silence and feel like because you are a Christian, because you are a believer, because you go to church, because you love God, we are not exempt.
we absolutely, like we said, we just picked two people out the Bible who went through depression. That's the prophet Elijah and King David. They absolutely had a mental illness that they had to deal with. And the other thing is, just because we might not be professionals don't mean that we can't help you in some level. Look, if I have to drive you to the doctor myself, we can do that. And that's after we have prayer.
Right.
So we're not trying to belittle any mental illness. We want to acknowledge that it exists, and we want the church to acknowledge those that don't, to acknowledge that it exists, because we want people to get help. There is nothing wrong with sitting on somebody's couch.
Yeah,
I've done it. Best thing I ever did. Well, one of the best. Right.
And you know what else, Wanda, too? I didn't realize that I knew the month of May was mental health awareness, right, month, but I did not realize how long mental health has been observed in the United States since 1949. But, you know, sometimes we put things on the calendar, but it doesn't necessarily mean that anything is being done about it. There's no there's movement. Sometimes we just do things because somebody protested or somebody, you know, said, hey, we need to do something about this. So, you know, yeah, that's interesting that it's been on the calendar that long.
You know, it really is, especially when you think all the way back to Abe Lincoln. His wife suffered mental illness, but because they just kept calling her crazy, right? That they really didn't deal with what she had. And it's not just her. I mean, it's all throughout history.
Right.
That people have suffered from some kind of mental illness that people have just tried to brush under the rug or keep it covered or keep it in the closet, keep it hidden, instead of dealing with it and dealing with it honestly and openly. Granted that some people who have mental illnesses are embarrassed about it. And that's understandable, but at the same time, you don't want to be so embarrassed that you don't get the help you need.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially when you have 1 in 4 pastors and congregants suffering from mental illness, I mean, we have to definitely do better. And if it's not the time, then when? And I am grateful that there are many churches talking about, and our church is one of them. We talk about mental illness, workshops on mental illness, right? All those things. So, but there's more. There's another level to that. Like you were saying, when we have pastors that are committing suicide, dealing with depression, shutting down their churches, all kinds of things because of stress and depression. Anxiety, all those things.
And that's a big one. You know, because, you know, one of the things we said in the introduction is that, you know, the church is notorious for demonizing mental illness, right?
Right.
Especially our churches, our community. Everything is a demon. Right? Even if you fall asleep in church, they would call it the sleep demon. I'm tired.
Right, I'm tired. Or my medication makes me tired.
Right, I'm tired. You know, that's falling asleep because I ain't had sleep all night. My body can't take for so much. So the church has been notorious for demonizing everything that is unexplainable spiritually. Let's put it that way. So do you think that maybe the Bible contributes to that?
You know, there's so many. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think of the scripture where you have the boy who is being tormented by demons, and you know, and the father's trying to get him delivered. And I think that sometimes when we preach from a pulpit or even give teaching the scripture, you know, Bible class, whatever, we have to be careful not to make people feel as if that because they're sick, that there's something wrong with them, right? And I know some people say, well, there's something wrong, they're sick. But understand what I'm saying. We don't want people to feel like, again, like we're labeling them, or like we put this stigma on them because they're dealing with a situation. There are so many illnesses today, so many things that people are dealing with. We talked about, Wanda, we talked about different fears, different phobias, and things of that nature that people are dealing with that no one knows but them when they go home. You know, and they hide it. And then you find out maybe later, if you ever find out. But they don't have to hide those. They shouldn't have to hide those things. But I think the way we stand from the pulpit and teach and preach, that it can be looked upon as though, okay, like you said, Do I have a demon? And it doesn't necessarily mean that,
Right.
Could you? Yeah, you could, but that don't mean you have one because you have a mental illness.
Right. And I think, that's one of the things that the church, we've got to do better at recognizing is that because and this is, one of Satan's ploys is that he makes a mental illness resemble, or the behavior of that mental illness resemble that of the demonic of Gadarenes, or the boy that was being tormented, or one of the other ones that was possessed by a demon, right? So, but see, there's also those ones who have been subtle in their possession. Like, remember when who was it? Paul was going through town, and the woman, they started getting filled with the Holy Ghost, and then the woman was like, let me capitalize on this, right? But she was a sorcerer.
Right.
But she wasn't lashing out and none of that craziness. So people didn't realize it. So we can't label everything demonic, because it looks like it. You know the saying, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. No, it's not. That's not always the case.
Right. And so just like you tell,
we got to do better with that, because you know, like you said, we don't want people who need help, professional help, thinking that all they got to do is go lay on the altar and it's done. Now, granted, you can go on the altar and be delivered, but at the same time, if that's not what's going to heal you, if that's not what's going to deliver you, please go get some help.
Yeah. Because, and there has been studies, and we've heard these studies, and we've seen these studies as well, where praise and worship has been shown to bring deliverance of different mental illnesses and stresses and relief. Even the larger society has did this research. It wasn't Christians, per se. It was the others, so to speak, that did this research. And they even acknowledge that praise and worship and prayer and even dancing before the Lord, all those things can free you from different illnesses and diseases even. So there is research behind that. But also, too, I thought about when people talk about their illness and how we can get beyond that stigma when they're even talking about, like, for example, just because someone deals with schizophrenia, someone deals with anxiety and depression, does not mean that's them, right?
Right.
We are not. That's not us. Don't label yourself as what you're dealing with.
Don't define yourself by your illness. You have the illness, but the illness doesn't have you.
Right. And that's very important. I found out even going through my cancer diagnosis that it's very important to make sure you keep your mental health, in a good place. Because if you're not there mentally, it can easily grip you, and you'll start spiraling down.
And it'll affect your physical health.
Yes.
You get depressed, you don't want to eat, you want to stay in the dark, things like that. So, you're doing damage to your body as well.
Right. Yeah. And because we have ignored this for so long, it created that stigma, because stuff we don't talk about becomes taboo, and then things that become taboo become, what's the word I'm looking for? Become demonized, as you said earlier. It also comes deviant, like those things become deviant and sinful, because you must have done something wrong that you're dealing with this.
Now everybody's Job, right?
Right. So
it's just it's one of the statistics you mentioned was that 96% of churches say they are prepared to deal with mental illness. I'm happy to hear that number, but at the same time, I'm very shocked that it's that high.
Yeah, prepared and actually doing something is different, though. I'm prepared to open up my business, but have I opened it yet? Am I serving anybody? Has anybody come through? Right. Come on through. Come through.
and then I would, me. I play devil's advocate often. My next question would be, prepared how?
Right.
How are you prepared for this?
That's a good question.
What are you doing? Right. So there's just a lot that needs to be done. So what do you think since we're talking about what the church needs, what is the church's responsibility, or what's their role in dealing with mental illness?
That's a good thought. That's a good question. I would love to hear from those who are watching, those who are listening. What do you think of Facebook? What do you think, YouTube? What do you think, Stitch? What do you think? Those that listen to other platforms, what do you think the church's responsibility or role is, if any?
Yeah, right. I mean, we just sat here and said, we put our disclaimer out there. We are not mental health professionals. Right. So what is the church's role, especially when, most of the congregants are not mental health professionals?
Yeah.
So how do we handle that?
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
It's interesting because I can remember when I was growing up in the church I attended, there was a church that used to come down to New Jersey from New York, and one of the missionaries used to suffer from mental illness.
Yeah.
She and I'm not sure what exactly she suffered from, but every now and again, and they came down often because we fellowship with them quite often. So they would come down, and every now and again I would see her and I would ask about her, and they would be like, "Oh, she didn't come this time." That's all they would ever say until, I started getting closer with some of those people from that church, and she would say, "Oh yeah, she in the hospital." I'm thinking hospital. I was like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And it's like, "Oh no, she in the mental hospital. She had a nervous breakdown." That was it. Everybody had a nervous breakdown, or they had lost their mind. But it was more than just that, because it was chronic, whatever it was, because it was very often that she was in the hospital dealing with this. Yeah. And of course, at least they had enough sense to put her in a hospital. Mm-hmm. Instead of, trying to take her up to the altar and everybody laying hands, trying to cast out something that wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Sakanda just said maybe the church should seek additional training and education. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's key. And, that's good because, one, we can't pretend like we have all the answers. We don't.
We don't.
We serve a God that does, but we don't have it. And we need to, act like we're doing. We'll have the professionals come and have a deeper conversation about this next time. And that's important. Get professionals to come. And then some churches have those professionals right there in their congregation, that can volunteer their time and, at least train people who are willing to be trained. Right. There's been programs, depending on what state, what city, whatever county you're in, that will allow regular folk, right, to go through training. That you may not be counseling people, that kind of thing, but you could do intake or at least direct them in the right place to go, like kind of be that source for them to give them resources.
Right.
So that's what that would be. But yeah, definitely training and education, but we have to start with educating ourselves first,
right,
and looking for that training and getting it. That's important. Right.
And I don't think everybody has to be educated where they got to go get their PhD to be a doctor about it. But at least know what it is and be able to recognize it and be able to take immediate steps. Like if you do see, like maybe let's take schizophrenia for instance, and somebody's having one of their I don't even know what you call one of the episodes, right? Dealing with schizophrenia. How do you deal with it, especially if the doctor's not around or if a professional's not around? How do you keep them from harming themselves or even harming someone else?
Yeah.
Right. Because how many times have we read about the cops killing somebody who had a mental illness because they didn't know? They just automatically jumped to the conclusion that this was a dangerous person, instead of realizing or recognizing the signs of the behavior.
Yeah, that's true. It made me think about my mom who really believed in ministry and still does. But I remember particularly as a woman who was going to jump off of a subway, you had to go down into the subway, right? But she was up top. She hadn't gotten down yet, but she was going to jump onto the tracks from the top part. And my mom happened to see her, and, she had opportunity to minister to this woman so that she did not jump. And so we, that kind of stuff, we have to keep our eyes open to, and be ready for ministry, not just because ministry is not in the walls, outside the walls. We go in
That's
the
right.
walls to get equipped. So that's why what Secunda said is so important, that we get that training, educate ourselves so we can be equipped, not just with scriptures, but also with practical information to be to help somebody. Because if someone's never been churched but don't know scriptures at all, me going up to them just quoting scriptures may not be effective for them.
Mm-mm.
But if I share my testimony and say, hey, you know what, I experienced that too. Just last week, I'm talking about real testimony, like, because they'll know if you're not telling the truth. Okay,
that's right.
People know
They certainly will.
Right, and we want to share that with them so they'll know that they understand. They empathize with what I'm going through. They're really interested in what I'm going through and want to help.
Right. And even if you haven't personally gone through it, if you know someone who has, and how that made you feel, or how you didn't want to see them end up, you just communicate that to them. But don't, like you said, don't be browbeating them with the word or quoting scripture, and that's not doing anything.
Exactly.
It's just making that situation worse, because now they feel like they're not faithful, that they're not strong enough. Because I know someone who's going through that they felt like they were weak in faith and just weak because they had gone through a depression and had to be hospitalized. And so that made them even more depressed, because everybody's quoting, you could do all things through Christ who strengthens. Okay, but at this moment, I don't feel like I could do anything.
Right.
And you telling me what I can and can't do through Christ. Well, obviously it's not working for me.
Yeah.
So they felt even more depressed. And because the church has been so taboo with mental illness, that when the doctor had told them they needed to get on medication, they were very opposed to it, although the medication would help them. Because they felt like that made them faithless, because that wasn't honoring God.
Right.
And oftentimes we have to remind folk that if Luke was one of the disciples, and Luke was a physician, not think God is saying something about
right. We need a physician, right?
Doctors. I mean, he was there with Jesus.
Right.
So I think we really, the church has really got to come out of this place where, unfortunately, is what we always say, the church has been so judgmental about things that they don't really understand, or that they can't explain according to the word, when it's been in the word the whole time, but they missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's evident that David went through Psalm 42 and Psalm 43 are all about his depression. So how do you miss that?
I tell you, I'm excited about having the experts on to get there. I mean, it's so even like the different phobias, and we'll talk about that. We'll bring that up next month too. There's so many phobias, which stems from anxiety.
Right, the attack of anxiety. Trust me, me and Sandra had this argument. She had to prove it to me. I have phobias. Anybody who knows me knows I am definitely afraid of snakes, and I am afraid of spiders. I've gotten better with spiders because I've had to. My sons are both down south. Somebody got to kill the spiders. So
spiders no more.
Me and the can of Raid go to work. Right, but when it comes to snakes, I am almost paralyzed because I fear them so much. So I was, kind of debating that. That's not a mental illness, but it is. It's a form of anxiety. Jesus
help us. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been a great conversation.
Yes,
it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning.
So can you guys imagine we had these kinds of conversations all the time with each other?
There's so much, that's what this platform is for, really, right? To talk about those things that either not talked about in the church, or not enough, or things that we need to. We all need to talk about all of them, right? They all need to be talked about more, and that's what we want to do. So we are glad that people are engaged and talking with us and sharing and listening in. So, but I think we've come to that point where we have to wrap this up, Wanda.
Yeah. This is always the part we hate.
I know. We do thank everybody for joining us on tonight. And please do share, like, comment, and we hope that you'll listen to the replay again and again and share again and again. And please go on our YouTube channel and subscribe. Smash that button like you know you should be. Okay? And subscribe to our channel. We have a goal we want to reach, and we want you to help us get there because we want people to get this information.
Right. We just want to leave you with these thoughts before we close, because it is holiday season, and this is a time when suicide is extremely high. People are going through depression because they've lost someone. They don't feel they have anything to celebrate or to live for. So just be mindful that when you see someone and they look like they're going through something, have a kind word to say to them. You don't have to have a sermon. Just smile at them. Ask them if they want prayer. Give them a hug, something. But just be kind to people, because everybody is not in the same place as you. Right? And we don't know what they're going through. So, if somebody snaps at you, don't be so quick to snap back at them, because you don't know what happened at home. You don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know what they're carrying around. Kill them with kindness. Does the word not tell us that? Be slow to speak, quick to hear, slow to wrath. A soft answer turneth away wrath. That's the word. So we want to be mindful during this season, especially that people are going through some things. So our prayer for you is that you will take the information that we've given you on today, even the statistics, and that from the discussion that we had today, you can grow from that and recognize your value. What small part you can play, especially in this season, to help someone else in this situation. So continue the conversation. Let's talk about it. Write your questions down in the chat so that we can present them to our experts for next month, so that we can get some answers, so that we can be better prepared to help those that are suffering. So until next month, Sister Girl, can we talk?
Sister Friend, let's talk about it. Have a good night,
everyone.
One another, talking about issues that we're all facing, good, bad, indifferent. Let's talk about it from one sister to another. Let's talk.